Very Bad Wizards is a podcast with a philosopher, my dad, and a psychologist, Dave Pizarro, having an informal discussion about issues in science and ethics. Please note that the discussion contains bad words that I'm not allowed to say, and knowing my dad, some very inappropriate jokes.
What kind of a show are you guys putting on here today?
The great boss has spoken. Pay no attention to that man behind the curtain.
Who are you? Who are you? A very bad man.
I'm a very good man. Good man. They think deep thoughts, and with no more brains than you have.
Pay no attention to that man.
Anybody can have a brain.
You're a very bad man.
I'm a very good man. Just a very bad wizard.
Welcome to Very Bad Wizards. I'm Tamler Summers from the University of Houston. Dave, the Decoding the Gurus guys finally released their episode with us, and now I'm getting hassled by people mad at me for questioning mask policies and not pleasuring myself to Anthony Fauci briefings. Is it finally time for me to start my own Substack?
I feel like you could start a Substack devoted to what I'm guessing, based on your performance on Decoding the Gurus, would be Joe Rogan fan fiction.
Joe Rogan's Scooby-Doo.
Yeah, exactly. Joe Rogan's Scooby-Doo with no masks, because even wearing a mask for a disguise would clearly be against your libertarian policies, because it might prevent COVID by mistake. And then I don't know, one dedicated
How
to
easily you give up the freedoms of American citizens. The Rogan thing is funny because I'm the only one of all of you guys who actually doesn't listen and never has listened to Joe Rogan.
It was amazing that you were defending him. And I was like, wait, of all of the four of us, clearly I actually watch Rogan way more than they watch it for work, But it was a fun episode. It
was.
Even though you clearly couldn't stop fawning over Kirsten Dunst and
Wait, what?
Fawning over Kirsten Dunst
in the Decoding the Gurus episode? She's not in The Master.
No. Who were they saying in The Master? Who were they saying that you were making jokes about hand jobs?
Oh, Amy Adams. That wasn't me, though.
Who was making jokes? Was it me?
I think it was you. Yeah.
I have no memory. Well, see, there you go. This is how professionals do it. We record and we forget. And then we only learn what we said when the Twitter backlash happens.
Exactly. Well, we have a very special guest for the second segment to talk about the first season of Severance, Paul Bloom.
It's almost like he's not a special guest. He's just a regular guest. But Paul is not joining us for this segment.
Oh,
I don't know why. I really don't know why. Because as someone who fancies himself an evolutionary psychologist, I would have thought that he would want to jump in to discuss this article.
The paper in the top evolutionary psychology journal, right?
I actually don't know what the top.
I Googled top evolutionary psychology journal, and it appears to be this one, at least according to some metrics. But yeah, this is a paper called "The Effect of Female Orgasm Frequency on Female Mate Selection: A Test of Two Hypotheses."
See, science falsifying hypotheses. I don't know what.
It's just Daniel Akin's approved. I can't wait to talk about this. But I thought this was, I think I texted you, maybe the quintessential evolutionary psychology study, like the Platonic form of...
Right, in the cave. It's in the cave.
It's like...
casting a shadow. It's casting its big shadow.
I emerged from the cave and saw the true form of an Evo Psych study just by...
It's true. It's like an algorithm that generated an Evo Psych topic.
But then I thought, it's actually maybe not, because it's more like, what if we combined all the problems and obsessions of evolutionary psychology research with all the problems of social psychology experimental methodology?
I must admit that I thought something very similar. So yes, this is an article attempting to test some theories about the evolution of female orgasm. And so the background really is that people have talked about female orgasm and whether or not it might have an evolutionary function because
Since the dawn of time, people
since
have
the
been
dawn of time, people have been wondering. Because, you could say very clearly that the male orgasm, in as much as it's tied to ejaculation, plays a role in promoting reproduction.
Big role. Yeah.
Big role. It's like probably the most important thing,
Yeah.
getting. But the function of the female orgasm, the mythical female orgasm, is
supposedly exists.
Right. So this is actually you shared with me this write-up in SciPost.
Well, because it was Reddit. This came to us from Reddit.
Okay. This author, Main Kara Yakubian, says, while the male orgasm is necessary for sexual reproduction, the female orgasm is not. Thus, some scholars have argued that the female orgasm is unlikely to be an adaptation, but rather the evolutionary byproduct of the male orgasm. Others have emphasized the adaptive benefits of the female orgasm.
Why would it be the evolutionary byproduct of the male orgasm?
Well, so the idea is that because we share physiology in as much as, the in utero, for instance, the fetus develops. What is the clitoris turns into the tip of the penis, and all of the wiring is sort of there. So to the extent that evolution wired orgasm into males, it would just come along for females.
They just got it for free.
Exactly. Right.
Yeah.
They didn't have to do all the work of. So these authors, the one step they take is, let's just say that it's an adaptation. Let's discard the byproduct and let's see if it serves a function to the extent that it does, which function would it serve? And so they pit two hypotheses about the function against each other.
So the Mr. Right hypothesis, which I'll just read from their paper, from the article. According to the Mr. Right hypothesis, females use a male's ability to bring her to orgasm as a piece of information that helps her decide his value as a long-term mate. A male's ability to bring a female to orgasm may function as a signal of his care and concern for the female's needs and desires. Thus, by caring enough to address a female's emotional and sexual needs, a male may also be demonstrating his more general willingness to stay with her, invest in her, and invest her offspring. So that's a kind of standard kind of evolutionary psychology hypothesis. It's like, that's just about the investment, the parental investment. But then I love this next little bit. The main evidence in support of the Mr. Right hypothesis for female orgasm comes from Gallup et al. 2014, who found that partner family income predicted female orgasm frequency, which was still true after controlling for the partner attractiveness. So what? How would that be evidence for what they said? What does income have to do with it? There's a piece missing in that being evidence for the Mr. Right hypothesis.
Right. The leap, I guess, is that, so as you say, male parental investment in all of these sexual selection sort of studies is thought to play a big role. And so the female has to choose between... So in short-term mating, you could go for the good looks and the good genetics. But in long-term mating, what you really want is the male to stick around to provide for resources and time and protection for the offspring, because that way your offspring has a greater chance of surviving and reproducing themselves. And so I think the link is just being a good provider. So to the extent that the man has more money, the woman is secure that her offspring will have a shot at success.
And
I'm just trying
somehow,
to describe without endorsement.
And somehow the orgasm is a signal. I guess because there's no income in the environment of evolutionary adaptedness, as they like to say, right? Not in that sense. So it's, I still not totally getting it.
No, it's because it feels very like a very hand wavy, tenuous relationship. So I guess the idea is that there would be a correlation between males who are good at providing resources and males who are good at giving you orgasms. So to the extent that the ability to give you an orgasm, to the extent that it signals your underlying parental investment, then I guess good parental investment males would also be good at orgasms. It's still not clear to me that would at all be a mechanism by which you get to learn about their parental investment. But
All
Gordon Gallup, the guy who wrote that article, I guess, is the guy who famously did these studies where he created dildos of different shapes to see what kind of penis shape would be most efficient at scooping out rival male semen.
We've talked about that, right? Or you've mentioned it before.
Yeah.
All right, so that's one hypothesis, and you might think that's so plausible you don't even need to consider another one, but there is another one, the long-term pair bonding hypothesis.
Yeah, so the long-term pair bonding hypothesis would predict, according to them, that orgasm functions to promote a female's commitment to a relationship partner by promoting emotional bonding with and attachment to him. So while, according to the Mr. Right hypothesis, the relationship between female orgasm and mate selection is the males demonstrating care and commitment, so like using that as a signal. According to the long-term pair bonding hypothesis, this relationship is mediated by the female's feelings of attachment and closeness to her mate.
So it's a way to get her to commit more to somebody.
Yeah, I guess. So they build on this work on oxytocin, the hormone that is among other things plays a role in attachment and bonding, and because oxytocin is released during all kinds of touch, but especially during sex and orgasm, that it would help solidify the relationship with a long-term partner. So it's still, I think, that the sexual selection that's happening is the female trying to secure a partner who is good at long-term investment. It's just that in the first case, the Mr. Right hypothesis, they're trying to suss out who would be a good long-term partner. And in the long-term pair bonding hypothesis, it's that they are
trying to convince themselves.
Yeah, or like manipulating the relationship into staying, like manipulating the partner through the release of oxytocin into being a long-term partner by sticking around.
Oh, so it's like a Black Widow kind of
right. It's like
shooting poison into the man, which is like what it means when you commit
so
to somebody. You're essentially dying.
So the idea, I think, this is all just not very fleshed out, but the idea, I think, is that when you have an orgasm as a female, the male gives you an orgasm, you release oxytocin, which leads him to want to stick around more. So to the extent that a female can have orgasms, she is more likely to have the male stick around.
That seems like an inefficient way to release a little oxytocin.
But I mean, are you going to argue with the science? Because let's talk about how they tested it.
Well, before we get there, just like on the oxytocin thing, they say animal research, both with prairie voles and non-human primates, suggests that oxytocin is involved in mating and mate bonding. Is that what this is dependent on? Some like prairie vole study?
Well,
do they not have an ability to test that with humans?
There is a huge literature on oxytocin in all kinds of animals. The reason that prairie voles are kind of like one of the central models for oxytocin is that these prairie voles, this particular species, they have long-term bonding. And so we could look at their brains and how oxytocin is being used. And you know, it's not easy to find long-term pair bonding mammals that you can easily like crack into their brains without any real.
On behalf of Homo sapiens, I'd like to apologize to the prairie vole species for they're just fucking minding their own business, and now all of a sudden they're just captured and bred to like see what like their oxytocin release is during, and what is, I honestly like the fact that that's a hypothesis, and both of those are hypotheses that have that evidence in support of them is just kind of mind-boggling. But okay, let's talk about the studies that they
right. So
did.
So the broad methodology here was to get a bunch of undergraduate women, 175 heterosexual female undergrad students at Bowling Green State University,
with an average age of 19, by the way.
The way that they tested this was to create a series of vignettes describing a relationship, like really brief, and ask the women to pretend that this was their relationship.
Right.
So what they manipulated was how that relationship was described. Was it a short or a long-term relationship? And then how frequent orgasms happened in this relationship. So participants read a hypothetical scenario describing the relationship with a man named Michael. The short-term condition outlined a 1-month relationship, while the long-term condition referred to a 1-year relationship. Following some general details about the relationship, such as where they met, participants then read about the sexual nature of the relationship. For instance, in your relationship with Michael, you either never, occasionally, or almost always experience an orgasm, which is just a weird piece of information to include. By the way, pretend you're in a relationship with Michael. You guys had a romantic evening at a spaghetti factory and watched a rom-com, and now you've been fucking him for a month and you always have orgasms.
Right.
That's just, that's it.
And also assuming that a lot of these girls have never been in a 1-year relationship, right?
Wait, why?
Because they're 19.
But you're somehow not, you're failing to take into account the power of the imagination
Sure.
to just pretend you've been in a 1-year relationship.
Right.
Of course you're going to know what that's like. So then they included questions about a male partner's commitment and relationship satisfaction. So things like, how much do you think Michael cares about you? How passionate is your relationship with Michael? And then they also took one of these assessments of whether they were more oriented toward short-term mating or long-term mating, and whether or not they had a lot of orgasms in their life.
Yeah.
How easy it was. And so what they found was that female orgasm, the way they even talk about this, they found that female orgasm was associated with greater relationship satisfaction and a longer expected relationship duration in both a short and long-term relationships context. When they actually found was just that if you ask women to think about being in a 1-month or 1-year relationship and you've told them that you had either a lot of orgasms or very few, that they're inferring that their relationship might be good.
They're inferring they might want to stay with the guy that like always gives them orgasms over the one that like
when
doesn't.
like that's almost all you've told them about him. Like
Right.
that's almost the only piece of information they have. Would you like who in their right mind would be like, no. I prefer I prefer Michael when he doesn't give me any orgasms. Like that's just so weird. Okay, so female orgasm, women's perception of their partner's commitment did not explain the association between orgasm frequency and relationship satisfaction or expected.
That's bad news for one of the hypotheses. Maybe.
The Mr. Right hypothesis has been discarded.
Oh man.
So they believe that this is evidence for the long-term mate choice hypothesis of female orgasm, that what orgasms do is they promote long-term pair bonds.
Right.
They don't just signal that a guy might stay with you for a long time.
Right. It's like this little like mist, like mind control gas that just goes into the guy to try to convince him to stay.
It's a magical power.
Yeah. Yeah, right. And because these 19-year-olds didn't predict that that necessarily the guy would want to stay with them, maybe because like this guy knows how to fuck, right? Like so like but somehow intuitively perceive that
there are so many leaps that have to be made to consider this evidence for anything. Yeah. That like once again, it just perplexes me that this kind of stuff is being published, and it can only happen in a community that it's so insular that they've all agreed that none of these are problems, and they like fail to see the issue here. And
that's true in a lot of fields though, right? Like we have this in our own fields too, but it's just maybe not quite as glaring.
Feels like just perplexing and obvious that this would be. I guess it happens everywhere, but
let me ask a naive question, and you be the evolutionary psychologist answering this question.
Okay.
So, in my understanding of evolutionary psychology and their just general kind of foundation of what they believe is a lot of this stuff is adaptive in the evolutionary, environment, and which we did most of our evolving in, which was 200,000 to 300,000 years ago in the African savanna, the Pleistocene, right?
Yeah.
That's what they say. So that allows them to sort of explain certain discrepancies between like how we act right now versus how we act there. And like now, like why do we love cake? Why do we love ice cream when it's actually bad for us? But in the evolutionary of environmental adaptiveness or whatever, in the Pleistocene, like there was no ice cream, but there were berries, which had good, nutrients.
Right. Exactly.
Why then do they think that a lot of this stuff for this, something as physiological as an orgasm, would carry over to the point where like 19-year-old Bowling Green students are going to be able to give you a sense of what our hunter-gatherer ancestors...
Yeah,
there may be an answer to this, but it's just like normally I'm used to them talking about, how our environment today is so not like the environment then that like we can't map it in the way that they seem to want to map it here, where it's like, oh, this guy's going to stick around. This guy's going to like, it wouldn't be like that anymore.
So it's a good question, and I think the answer that they would try to give is something like there's a couple of questions that I heard in there, but one would be that the first thing that you described, like liking berries because they're sweet and have nutritional value, and now we could just go to 7-Eleven and get Twinkies. Our environment really has changed a great deal. So we can look at our perplexing current behavior, and if we can understand it based on the EEA, then that can help explain why we have this current perplexing behavior now,
which seems maladaptive.
Yeah. I think that what they want to argue here, because this whole sort of like subfield of this kind of evolutionary psychology that's focused on sexual selection wants to argue that has been a stable evolutionary pressure for this whole time. So while our environments have changed quite a bit in terms of things like nutrition and survival, like whatever, predation, we've always been faced with the problem of having to choose which mate would be the better mate, especially the females.
Sure, but there's no way that, like, I'm
so
trying
maybe
to
this,
think
okay,
this
the
through.
second thing because this might be what you're getting at. The second thing that I thought you might be asking is why young women would have any insight into this in their reporting.
But it wouldn't be transparent to them, especially when we're talking about orgasms. Like they wouldn't know that that's what's going on.
Right.
Right.
And I think that's right. And what was the last crazy Evo Psych thing that we discussed? Do you remember?
No.
Yeah, I don't remember. But I remember having this discussion, which is what is the theory of what's going on in the mind of the person making this judgment? I think that here they would like to say, oh, the way that this works is it's ingrained itself into female selection behavior, and what we're doing is assessing intuitions, much like you might assess whatever heuristics and biases. And so without even knowing explicitly what's going on, the young women have this sense having orgasms can lead to better long-term partners. Like we're like in a cool surreptitious way assessing like the evolved mental mechanism. Again,
I guess it's because they are, just intuitively recognizing that, okay, well, that's good. You steel-manned it. I do think, though, that it's weird that it would map on so well, like to something so modern, like dating habits of college kids.
I mean, I totally
there's so
agree.
many. Like, and this is the tip of the iceberg. Yeah.
It's just the tip of the iceberg.
Just
what really bugs me about this is, among other things, is also this huge assumption that this could in any way provide evidence for natural selection to have given females orgasms.
Right.
Like it's one thing to say,
right. I had this.
Right. It's like, how does that work? Like, how exactly did it?
It's true.
Why isn't the more parsimonious? Okay, let me give an example. Imagine that I said for men who open the car door for women, they do so because women are looking for signals that this guy's going to take care of them in the long term, and opening the car door shows that you're the kind of guy who really will look out for them. Now imagine I said that's why we evolved the car opening. That's why men evolved the car door opening behavior. You'd be like, well, how does that work exactly? Like, how did that get in there into our brains?
No, like exactly. Like how, like, so in the case, so applying what you just said to like the orgasm is the idea that cause like you don't just mutate from no orgasm to complete orgasm, right? So it would have to be this very gradual, but still very effective, directional thing where the women who are just like giving off like just a little closer to an orgasm or something like that. I guess maybe the oxytocin, just giving off a little bit, they just do a little better until finally you just have orgasm.
You would just want though, there's all kinds of questions physiologically. Like we know that just any physical contact will release oxytocin. So you would want to say that like orgasm gives such a boost that that this is doing some good work explaining why people bond with each other,
and that that the women who were doing this just a little more than the other women would have more offspring. I guess because the men stuck around longer. Men stuck around, yeah.
But as you said early on, like if the guy is really good at giving orgasms, he's just going to go around to doing that to a lot of people. So why it counts in any way as evidence that women think that a guy who gives you orgasms is a good thing, like why that would count as evidence for the evolution of the female orgasm is
never mind like a specific hypothesis about the evolution.
And they in the very like the penultimate paragraph or like the third last paragraph, they have a section called evolved function versus benefit. And so they say, however, this study simply shows that female orgasm may provide a benefit to women by promoting long-term relationships, if it does even that. It does not necessarily mean that this is the evolved function of the female orgasm. For example, it is possible that the female orgasm exists as a byproduct, as discussed previously, but as a byproduct happens to benefit women by promoting feelings of love and affection. Well, yeah. How is like a hypothetical orgasm study just not completely just that? Like I've told you nothing other than that this guy gives you a lot of orgasms. Right. Do you think you want to be in a long-term relationship with? Do you think it'll be good?
Do you think it'll be like, right? Like,
it seems like the only information you've given me is that this guy is paying enough attention to me that he's going to give me regular orgasms. And now I'm asking you, do you think this guy wants to pay a lot of attention to you? But they say differentiating between female orgasm as an adaptation or a byproduct of male orgasm would require future research.
Yeah, no, the main thing I think with this study is to just see if it replicates for, like 19-year-olds at Ohio State maybe, or at like Miami of Ohio. Like,
I just want to like highlight again what this finding was because it's ludicrous.
Yeah.
The only thing that they found was that if you tell women, college girls, that a relationship, this hypothetical relationship involves more orgasms, they say that they would be more satisfied than one that involves fewer orgasms.
Yeah.
That's it. That's absolutely it. And now
just to like highlight that, like, I don't know, have you been to Bowling Green?
No.
Like, it's not a nice part of the country.
Why are you being so mean to Bowling Green?
Well, I just want, like, this is, like, that's about as good as you're going to get.
As another way of saying it, insert anything positive about a man's behavior in a relationship and ask the same exact questions and tell me you're not going to find the same fucking thing. Like he cleans the kitchen once a week, or he never cleans the kitchen, or he cleans the kitchen every time that you cook. I don't know. I guess I'd be happier with a guy who's always cleaning. Boom. Evolutionary evidence. Boom.
I don't know. They might think he was kind of a bitch.
Yeah, well, he's a cuck. That guy's definitely a cuck.
That guy's a total cuck.
Like, I think I say this all the time, but I do, like, this is a particular kind of evolutionary psychology that is unfortunately...
This is a way to meet 19-year-old girls.
It's not enough to be just a professor. Like, there's a lot of people who would consider themselves evolutionary psychologists who don't do this weird sexual selection, like weak ass, like serious weak sauce methodology stuff. Like,
do they reckon with this stuff in evolutionary psychology, like, or has just all the people who would be inclined to try to reckon with this just left, and now you have only the true believers remaining?
That's a good question. I don't know the right answer to that, but we get a bit of a hint, I think, when we talk to people like Paul Bloom, who really are sold on the idea that understanding evolution can explain large swaths of the human mind, and including social stuff. I feel like there is a little bit of tribalism going on where they don't want to just throw these people under the bus because they have an understanding that, well, we're all kind of trying to sell the same story about the importance of evolution on the mind. Yeah. But the people, like, for instance, in my department who do evolutionary biology, and they say study the neural mechanisms of social behavior in birds or in voles, these people couldn't be farther away from the article that we just read. Like this wouldn't even cross their mind as a plausible way to study the evolution of the mind like that. So this is more like a social psychology. Like you said, it's like taking a little bit of column A, which is bad social psych, and a little bit of column B, which is an evolutionary understanding.
But it seems like, so what he says is the proximate mechanisms, like that is something famously that they don't really tackle.
Yeah.
It's hard to emphasize enough how there is absolutely no explanation as to how this would work, that you would evolve gradually or suddenly the trait of having more frequent orgasms and how that would have evolutionary benefits. It is purely just like, this is our theory. This is, but there's there's absolutely nothing that shows how that would work. There's no sense of the base physiological genetic level how that would happen.
Well, and I read this paper. I didn't read it closely, but one thing you could ask is, what is the prevalence of orgasm in non-human females across?
Right.
You could really do comparative work trying to understand, like, to the extent that orgasm is adaptive for any female of the staged mammals. Then do you see it in other animals?
Are these prairie voles just getting like made to like fuck each other until they like scientists can determine whether they're having orgasms or not?
Well, the next step is to give them little cars and stuff and see if they open doors.
Leave the prairie voles alone. Like, don't drag them into whatever like kind of bankrupt.
To be fair, they don't always kill them.
Yeah, but they're like minding their own business on the prairie. I also think like what you would really want if this was a, I don't know, intellectually serious kind of hypothesis is, if it's going to be the oxytocin explanation, then you would also want to know whether like the orgasm is the most efficient way of emitting oxytocin under those kinds of circumstances versus some other way, some other kind of, because it sounds like, at least the research that they're quoting, it's just other animals release oxytocin when they have sex, but like everybody's having sex. The question is whether the orgasm makes a difference when it comes. And if it does, is there like, why that way instead of another way?
Right.
So
absolutely. You would want, and it's hard to do in humans, because if you really want to see, so you could try to measure blood levels of oxytocin, but brain levels of oxytocin, my understanding is, aren't necessarily one-to-one mapped with blood levels of oxytocin. And so it's kind of hard to get good data on the neuropeptides action in the brain. By the way, I found an answer to the question of all female. So I'll put a link to this, just like Q&A. All female mammals have a clitoris, the sole purpose of which is to react to sexual stimulation. And presumably this stimulation has evolved to be pleasurable for most species. But establishing whether sexual pleasure ever actually tips over into orgasm is hard. Female chimps, macaque monkeys, and cows have all been stimulated in the lab to the point of experiencing vaginal and uterine contractions, which does suggest that other female animals are at least capable of orgasm. Whether they regularly have them during normal copulation is much less certain. Most animal sex is very brief and often quite violent. That's terrible. That's terrible. This makes me sad. That made me sad.
For the cows.
Yeah. This brief
I
and
feel bad
violent
for the
is like-
cows in the lab getting stimulated by a fucking, like,
Why?
like poor
If
grad
they've
student
never-
or postdoc.
If they've
Like,
never had an orgasm in real life, man, and you bring them into lab and you have a
don't
student
know.
just like rub one out for them, like how
are
great
we
is that?
sure that they're, like, not just shuddering in, like, disgust?
No, but I'm willing to take the risk. Beyond mammals, the case for a female orgasm is more tenuous. Reptiles have penetrative sex and presumably would benefit from orgasms just as much as mammals, but I don't think anyone has ever tried to detect the female orgasm in a crocodile or snake. I mean, I think that it's just like, it's not like offensive to say it's a byproduct. Look, if it's made of the same stuff as what turns into a penis in utero, then it just seems like, to the extent that orgasms exist in women, it's just the same mechanism. I don't understand why that's like not just the default hypothesis. It's like, why do men have nipples? Because women have nipples. Like that's
Right.
it, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's not to get piercings, like or whatever.
Because piercings show that you're...
You're super down.
yeah. I like this, though, like to try to promote like a moral purpose for this research. Nibble says in the interview, orgasm is highly variable between females, and many females struggle with the difficulty or inability to achieve orgasm. It's like trying to be sensitive, but at the same time, just like you're just females. Struggling with sexual satisfaction affects relationship satisfaction and overall satisfaction, and can be distressing, even lead to self-blame, Nebby told SciPost. The exact adaptive function of female orgasm might not be that important to people outside the field, but I do think that knowledge that variability in female orgasms may be by evolutionary design, rather than being evidence of dysfunction, may provide some solace to women struggling with their sexual satisfaction.
What? I don't. Hold on. Let me.
Who said it was dysfunction in the first place?
Do you
Like
think
what?
knowledge of variability? First of all,
This doesn't make any sense.
oh my God. Okay. So they're saying like, look, the reason that some chicks don't have orgasms, some women don't have orgasms is
Females.
Some females don't have orgasms is because the variability, the variability is what makes this so like evolutionarily powerful, right? So it's like somehow being deployed selectively to keep the right long-term mates.
Except that what if like you were with a long, you've been married for like 12 years happily, and like you never had an orgasm, and then it's like, but oh no, that's okay because you're very like women were meant to have orgasms so they could be with the right person. It's like, well, why am I not having orgasms? I'm with the right person. It's like, do they say like,
really,
you're
you're just an evolutionary accident because
if that, how would this be consolation? How, like, rather than evidence of dysfunction, it's by design, but it's not working as by evolutionary design. Like, it's fucked up, the design.
You're
so it is dysfunction then.
Well, but you're totally right in that, like, this is like actually such a hand wavy, like trying to tie this back to some sort of like social good, where it's
purpose.
like, actually what you're saying is that those women must not really be trying to keep their mates sticking around.
Exactly.
So like, how does that feel any better?
Or they're just not with the right guy.
They're
and
not
they
with the
should
right
just
guy.
like break up with them. Like,
And literally all of this just boils down to this question. Like, if I tell you that you had more orgasms in a relationship, do you think that relationship is better? That's it.
Because 190 female 19-year-olds in Bowling Green said that they thought that, like Michael, who gives more orgasms, you'd probably want to stay with him.
Two things. Really, we really need to know if there's any other name for which this works.
I do think that, Mike, because there's the biblical kind of connotations.
Like the Knight Rider. I don't know.
I've warmed the seat for you, Michael. Oh, man. It's good stuff. All right. We'll be right back to talk with Paul Bloom about Severance. Today's episode is brought to you by GiveWell.org. GiveWell, one of our absolute favorite sponsors, and this is a different kind of spot today. They're looking to fill a position of content editor. Finding the most evidence-backed, cost-effective charities is hard, and the amount of information can be overwhelming, and errors in research can change which charities receive funding and which ones don't. So if you want an impactful career and you're up for the challenge, consider applying to be a content editor at GiveWell. You know, Dave, we received an email from somebody who, not because we read an ad, but because they, heard us talk about GiveWell, and then they ended up getting a job there. And now that's where they work. So
incredible.
It's amazing. This sounds like a good opportunity. If you're part of the Great Resignation and you recently quit your job, this would be a great new direction to turn to.
Absolutely. GiveWell is a nonprofit research organization dedicated to finding the best giving opportunities to help donors decide where to give. Each year, thousands of donors trust GiveWell to direct hundreds of millions of dollars to the programs GiveWell has found to save or improve lives the most per dollar. This includes programs that distribute medicine to prevent malaria, cash incentives to promote vaccinations, and treatments for parasitic worm infections. GiveWell wants all donors to have access to free, high-quality information about giving. And that's where the content editors come in. They're responsible for writing, vetting, and publishing this research so that anyone can access it.
So if you'd be excited to apply your writing skills and keen attention to detail, that rules me out, to help identify the best charities and help make GiveWell's research available to the public, check out givewell.org/editors. Salary starts at $75,000 and staff can work either remotely or from GiveWell's office in the San Francisco Bay Area. This sounds awesome. Again,
that really
that's
does.
givewell.org/editors. Thanks to GiveWell for sponsoring this episode. Welcome back to Very Bad Wizards. This is the time during the episode that we always take a moment to thank the people who get in touch with us, who interact with us, and with the rest of the Very Bad Wizards community. I think we can say that there is a Very Bad Wizards community, and it's really fun to be a part of it. You can email us at verybadwizards@gmail.com. We read every email and respond to a select few that are just
some subset of all those that we read.
Yeah. Almost arbitrarily, I would say.
Absolutely arbitrarily, yeah.
And you can tweet at us, at Tamler, at Peas, or at Very Bad Wizards. I had a couple of really rewarding exchanges with people on the Gurus episode.
You're being sarcastic.
I was. Good.
Can't always tell.
You picked up on that. That's good. You can join the Reddit community. On I guess it was a little moribund a few weeks ago, but it's picked up a little bit. I like that we got a lot of answers as to whether herbs grow on trees.
Oh, did we? I haven't seen.
Yeah, I learned quite a bit about that. Bay leaves apparently grow on trees, which makes sense. And there's a bunch of other ones. I mean, I just skimmed through it, but yeah.
That's funny.
It's good. It's good to know. You can follow us on Instagram, like us on Facebook. And one of the things we really appreciate is if you give us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. That helps us reach new audiences as a small sliver or maybe a large sliver of our audience gets sick of us, we can we can reach out to new people. So yeah, thank you so much. Is there anything that I missed?
Spotify,
yeah. Subscribe to us on Spotify, even if you don't listen to us on Spotify. Just subscribe to us.
And if you want to support us in more tangible ways, we always appreciate that. Thank you so much to people who have gone out of their way to, help keep us going. Both keep the lights on, but also keep us, keep our spirits high enough to continue recording sometimes. We really appreciate the generosity of our listeners. You can support us by just going to, you can see all the ways by going to our Very Bad Wizards support page, verybadwizards.com. You can click on support there. You can give us a one-time donation or a recurring donation on PayPal. We very much appreciate it. Or you can become one of our Patreon supporters, which we also very much appreciate. And if you do become our Patreon supporter, there are always perks that you get from your membership. If you become a $1 and up subscriber, you get all of our ad-free episodes, and you get my beats. And I'd like to announce, Tamler, that I've finally completed my Beats Without Rhymes Volume 6.
Wow.
I just need some art. I know. I just need some art.
Cool.
If you are $2 and up supporter, you get all of our bonus segments.
You also get the monthly Ask Us Anything audios.
Feel free to suggest bonus segments.
Bonus content, yeah.
You get to ask us anything. $5 and up, you get to vote on an episode topic for our twice a year listener selected episode. You also get access to our Brothers Karamazov series, our 5-part series. You get access to a couple of videos, my intro psych lectures, Tamler's lectures on Plato's Symposium.
I'm thinking of doing more lectures for it specifically, actually. Yeah.
Oh, awesome.
I'll just announce that publicly as a kind of commitment device for myself.
Finally, $10 and up, you get our monthly Ask Us Anything on the day that we record, on the month that we record them, and you get the video version of those, video and audio.
And you get to ask the question.
And you get to, really, that's the most important thing. You get to ask the question. Yeah. And again, we're on our streak of answering every single question. So thank you to everybody who supported us that way. And remember, you can also support us if you want to buy some swag. We have our t-shirts and our mugs and our hoodies and our little onesies. You can get all of those at our support page. So thank you to everybody for all your support. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. All right, let's welcome in Paul Bloom, VBW favorite.
Nice to be back.
What do you think, like if you had to guess right now, how many times have you been on Very Bad Wizards?
Wow. Let me go for 8 times.
I would say over.
There is an answer. I will look it up right now.
There was an episode, like you had an anniversary episode where I just dropped in to congratulate. But
okay,
don't count
if we
that.
don't count that, it's 10. It's 11 with that one.
Very exciting.
Wow.
Yeah.
Very exciting.
That is, very first episode was episode 24 about empathy.
Wow. You guys have legs. You guys have been going for a while.
We don't quit.
This is all we're known for. So if we stop now, that's just going to be like...
Speak for yourself.
Worse. All I'm known for is this honorary Very Bad Wizards person. Like possibly most valued guest tied with Yoel.
You've surpassed Yoel in terms of appearances because he got his own.
Yeah, he got his own podcast.
I know.
He has a spin-off. You know, I was thinking the other day, I would like to categorize certain podcasts as spin-offs of Very Bad Wizards. Yeah. And I want to put Laurie Santos and Sam Harris and Yoel Imbar in the spin-off category.
Yeah. And it's different levels of spin-offs, I think. Like Sam Harris, that's the Jeffersons. Like that's its own show. But like...
Nobody remembers anymore.
Right. I feel like Yoel, it's like, Joni Loves Chachi.
Or Rhoda.
Rhoda, that's fair. Yeah. Laurie Santos, I don't know. Like, is there an evil spinoff?
Laurie Santos, well, I don't know.
I don't know. She could be Angel to your Buffy.
Okay.
Well, all we have to do is mention on Twitter that, Paul, you're going to be on, and our listeners go crazy.
Well, I appreciate it. Any chance I can get.
And today we're going to talk about the TV show. This I'm really excited about. The TV show Severance, which we didn't talk about this beforehand, but we all agree that people should watch this show.
Yes.
Probably before listening to the rest of this episode.
We're not going to hide anything that happens. So watch it all, or you have to be in that weird camp that David is in where you think it's okay to have your
I don't mind getting spoiled.
Yeah.
But in this case, it is true that what is deeply interesting to me is something that is pretty much revealed almost in the promos.
Yeah.
And that is the central premise that there's this divided self. So Paul, you actually got me to watch it, and you want to say something about just the general philosophy that's being done.
So I was at a philosophy conference a long time ago, and I actually looked it up to try to remember the speaker, because I'm going to take this idea, but I forget his name, unfortunately, and I can't find it. But he was talking about Christopher Nolan films like Memento and Inception and The Prestige, which, there's a lot to be talked about there. And what he said is they're not, you can imagine a film doing philosophy in that it illustrates a philosophical point. You have the trolley problem could show up in a good place, or you have a case. In fact, I think the Batman films, one of Nolan's Batman films, does some philosophical moral dilemmas. But he said the Nolan films are more than that. They're actually doing philosophy. They're trying to express certain philosophical ideas about memory and persistence and identity. And in themselves, I think they're sort of contributions to how to think about these things. And that's what I feel about Severance, which is Severance really got me to take seriously certain ideas about identity that before I didn't quite buy, and the importance of memory. And I think it really is sort of, it deserves some credit as an intellectual contribution on its own, besides, being enjoyable to watch and fun and all that.
Yeah, so I taught a philosophy of film class during the spring semester of last year. We read a couple of those articles, and one in particular that made the same point, that they're not illustrating philosophy. They can do philosophy. Yeah. And they talked about modern times in that context. And I think Ikiru and what I really like about that, because I totally buy that. And often, my feelings are it often does philosophy better than philosophy does, at least a lot of contemporary philosophy. But what matters isn't just the idea. And this is where I might think Nolan is maybe not the best example of it, although I think Memento, of those, I think Memento counts more than maybe Inception or something like that. But
but Prestige really counts.
Oh yeah, the Prestige
Memento
too. Yeah, absolutely. But it's not just the idea for me. It's the thing that movies can do that analytic philosophers don't want to do and aren't capable of doing, is flesh it out so that you actually see that this is real people and not just a stick figure drawing of a guy at a trolley switch or something like that, Right. And so
Smith
you
and
can
Jones.
flesh out the examples and the idea, but you also flesh out the fact that there are real people involved in this stuff. And I think that's important if the goal is to sort of make us think about these questions and and even come to some sort of tentative position on what the answers to those questions are.
I mean, in some ways, this is the central notion that drives our podcast, because over time, I think we've come to it. We were saying this explicitly in the Ted Chiang, or at least I remember I was saying something like Ted Chiang's essays do a much better job.
Stories.
I mean, his short stories do a much better job at communicating some of these philosophical ideas exactly for what you were just saying, Tamla, right? Which is, it's not just memory and what if you could remember every detail. It is actual people dealing with this philosophical idea and all of the implications that might come along with that, interpersonal, emotional implications. And yeah, this one is, I mean, this is certainly sci-fi, and the central premise is such a big one that it does carry the show. But I'm so glad they made it into a TV show where we can see these characters actually develop.
Yeah. I don't know. Did either of you see Devs?
I didn't. I've heard about it. People recommended it.
So that was a show by Alex Garland, also high kind of sci-fi concept. But just the characters were so wooden. They were just stripped of anything kind of fun or interesting about them. And I love that Severance doesn't do that. There's fun in these characters. There's a lot of poignancy. It's very moving. It's not just hardcore focused on free will determinism, which is kind of what Devs was focused on. And
yeah, no, absolutely. And I always want to say Adam Scott
so
brings this just real tender kind of performance in a way that I never even watched Parks and Rec, so I only know him from
me neither.
From stuff that's where he's just kind of a sarcastic sort of straight man kind
Yeah, he
of
was in Big
character.
Little Lies, a small character
Oh,
for that.
yeah,
And he's been in a lot of things.
His best role, in my view, is Step Brothers. Like, just iconic, like, comedic role. Like, just perfect.
But the acting is so the key idea, which we'll talk about, is they have this operation called Severance, which makes them amnesic when they go to work, so that they lose all memory of their outer lives, and then they sort of start anew. And then when they leave work, they lose all memory of what they did at work. And so the notion here, which I find very persuasive, is that you end up with, in some sense, two people, an innie and an outie. The outie's, in this circumstance, a kind of dominant personality, because a personality who has a life and a house and family and so on. The innie...
And made the choice.
And has control over the innie, and we can talk a lot about that. But Adam Scott acts the hell out of it. Because his life outside has a tragedy at its core. And when the elevator opens and he resumes as his innie self, his face loosens and he becomes a little bit like a bit childlike. Because of course, in some way, he is 0 years old, just when he started the company, and he remembers reading no books because only the company manuals, that's all they read down there. And he probably has never had sex. He's in some way like a child.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. And I agree. Like that elevator trip up, you see his face just transform as it's going. And then, like he becomes a little more confident. And the first time this happens, you don't know what's going on. So it's like, is he just like one of these people who's a dick at work or something like that? Or he gets like, he has to psych himself up. But he plays that very well. And then when you find out what the reason is, which is that his wife died, or did she? That's the central tragedy. And he's really the only person we kind of get an idea why he decided to sever himself. And for him, it's like he just wanted time away, I guess, from thinking about his wife.
It's interesting because it's, given what we know about the procedure, really you're constantly existing as an outie, or you're constantly existing as an innie.
That's right.
So it wouldn't help. Yeah.
Well, that's what I guess that if the denominator is 24 hours and you think it would help to like be able to I guess it's some form of escapism in the same way that maybe drinking would help you forget for a bit, but you don't even remember that you forget.
It would shorten his waking hours, the outie, and the innie is always awake. I mean, in some way, my
that's
son,
scary.
My son Zach, who enjoys the show too, suggested that he would do a severance for going to the bathroom. That whenever he goes to the bathroom, he's severed, so he never lives a life of having to go to the bathroom. And then I said, "But you condemn another person to live his entire life on the toilet." And he said, "I don't care. It's not me."
It's not him.
It would just be me doing like Wordle and Quirtle and Octurtle and stuff like that. That would just be my whole life. I'll do that. I'll consign my person to doing that.
I know, because honestly, it's not like I jerk off in the bathroom, so it's not, I don't even get that, So it's not, I love silencing Paul with those comments.
You don't see my disapproving look.
Paul, you said something about the character, the innies being 0 years old. And that's something that I love about the way that they deal with this, which is they really are infantilized, the employees, as innies. They're treated in this really weird, condescending way. Like they're given like these dumb rewards. Like if you get your work done, you get to play with a Chinese finger trap, or, you get like melon balls or a dance party. And it took me a second to realize that's because those people really are, in some sense, newborns.
So I have a question then. Like, if we're just going to talk about that aspect of it, it's not totally clear to me, like, what they know and what they don't know, what they're born with. And at the beginning with Helly, and just a great scene where she just wakes up on that table and you have Adam Scott's voice, and she doesn't know where she came from. She doesn't know what her name is, but she knows a state, at least. She knows Delaware. She clearly knows how to read.
She has semantic memory.
Yeah, they have to know enough to be functional in the workplace. So it was just not totally clear to me what the dividing line is. Is just anything specific to them?
So the Psych 101 thing is, they would lose all autobiographical memory, all episodic memory pre-severance. They know how to do things, how to walk, how to use the toilet. They know language. But they
know facts about the world that are just semantic facts, not autobiographical ones.
So the scene is Helly starts on the table, and I was reading a discussion. It's sort of like birth. You're there, you're, and then she's born, and she's freaking out, and then Mark relaxes her and explains to her what she's up to.
What a great way, though, of trying to answer that question, because it's true. Like I think you do have to know about what happens to people who experience this real retrograde amnesia to understand what they're trying to say. But the way that they use that opening scene with those 5 questions to just let the viewer know, like at least you can get a sense of like they're supposed to know facts about the world, but nothing about themselves. It's really well done.
So the way we're putting it is there's an asymmetry where the Outie's the person.
The innie's the newborn, yeah.
The innie's the newborn. That's right. And so there's no sort of substantial real difference except this just the innie is a newborn. And if you started off as a newborn and severed a baby and spent half the time there and half the time there, the innie and outie would grow. There'd be no difference.
You know what's unclear? Bella asked this the other day when we were, and I don't know what the answer is for these amnesic fugue patients. Is their personality largely the same? Because it seems as if there are aspects of your personality that might really just be sort of your constitutional makeup, perhaps your biological makeup. But there are some aspects that might require explicit autobiographical memory. You know, the time that you were embarrassed in front of others has led you to be more quiet.
That's a good question. Yeah.
So it would address the question of sexual orientation. So Bert finds himself very attracted to and falls in love with basically a man in another department.
Oh my God. And John Turturro, Christopher Walken.
Yeah.
Just, I'm normally against same-sex male couples. The Christopher Walken, Bert and Irving.
Yeah.
That is, it's so I loved those scenes with them together so much.
Who are friends in real life. And they actually, they
Wait, do we know they're friends in real life?
According to...
Sorry.
No, sorry. No. This is not an Outie thing. There's Outie, then there's real world.
Right.
Bert was gay. That's clear. His Outie person is also gay, but Irving, we don't know for sure. We know he was like a Navy hero.
But Irving drove over to his house and
as in his innie state.
In his innie state, though.
Oh, that's right. In his innie state.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Right. The final scene is their innies see their Outie world.
All right. I feel like we're jumping ahead here, because we haven't even given all of our general impressions.
Yeah.
I will say that I loved the show. I binged it. Also watched with my daughter, and we were at just one Sunday, we were just all right, we're just plowing through the last 5. We're not this is our day. And totally fun. I'm glad we're talking about it. I was struggling to figure out, is this deep? What is this saying about the self, or what is this saying about, I don't know, workplace culture, or the work-life balance, or, alienation. I think it could be saying a lot of these things, but those things didn't pop out of it while I was watching it, which is good. I don't think that stuff should be in your face. I think it should be something you have to, work through a little bit. But I think the answer to that is yes, but I'm not 100% sure. I don't know. That's my feeling. Totally, I loved it. I'm still wondering what I think of it philosophically.
I'm sure there's stuff about corporations and work and balance and so on. I didn't get much of that. I mean, there's one way of looking at it could be very heavy-handed, which is, the corporation is, pulls away your soul and your identity, and it's terrible. Yeah. But if that's it, it just wasn't that interesting. But the identity stuff, to me, this basically persuaded me that memory is identity. And that the innie and outie have a situation of 2 people sharing the same body. And it is impossible. This is why it's sort of a philosophical argument, which is it's impossible for me to see the show any other way as each of the characters is now 2 different people. And I never took that view that seriously before.
Similar to Paul, I saw people talking about this right away in terms of critique of corporate culture or work-life balance. And it may be that, and it probably is, but I find that to be a boring and dreary sort of central message. I mean, I think it could very well be, and I was talking a little bit to Yoel about this. It could easily just be a cult, a religion of some sort. It could be a government. Yeah. I don't think there's anything about it that's really specific to corporations. But fair enough if people want to read it as that. The identity stuff, kind of like what you're saying, Tamler, is I like that it wasn't so obvious to me that it was making any argument. But Paul, you saying that it convinced you of this thing, I don't think I wasn't convinced of it, but it very viscerally does show the battle between selves.
Yes.
That to some extent is probably going on with us all the time. And key to this is that the two selves are forbidden from any real communication. And so any self could be viewed as self at time one, and outie self could be viewed as self at time two. It's just that for us, we have contiguity, we have constant overlapping memories from the last instant. We have ways of essentially communicating with our future selves by leaving a trail of our own behavior and our own communication to people in the outside world, planning, there's a constant communicating of our many selves. And this true severance procedure is artificially collecting those into, pooling two different identities and keeping them separated. And in that sense, it's like what many people think about the severing of the corpus callosum, where you're preventing the two lobes from communicating. But there really are two people residing in this brain. The longer they're prevented from communicating with each other, the more distant in terms of identity that they get, I think. Much in the way that Parfit says in The Transporter, Parfit really believes that the two copies are the same exact person. It's just that the minute they start living different lives, that's when they diverge. And it's interesting for me in terms of character development to see these two personalities really developing as two completely different characters.
So just to be clear, the only real sense of an outie that we get is Adam Scott's character.
Yeah.
The other ones we only get glimpses, and most of them at the end.
Although we do see the confrontation between Helly, her Indian, and which is quite chilling. Where
it's so
her at one point her outie, she wants, just a reminder, she wants to leave, and so she puts in a request to her outie, let me go, and it says no, and then she holds her body hostage, like she's gonna slice off her fingers, and then the outie just says, you're stuck in there, you're not even a person.
Yeah, and this is why I completely disagree with both of you, that I think a lot of the corporate stuff is the most interesting part, more than the identity part, because I think that the dystopian element of this, which is played up in lots of different ways, right? Just the office space and like the hallways and the endless desks, but then also this idea of like we want to create slaves, essentially. Like we're trying to create slaves, and this is our way of doing it. And in fact, we're going to create slaves that are us. And like the whole reveal about Ellie being actually like the CEO of this company that's doing it, and still willing to submit her own half a self to work like that. But that's what they are. They're slaves. They go, what the scariest thing is, they're done with work. They go down in the elevator, they come back up, and they don't think any time has passed. Like having anesthesia. It's like whatever has happened, they might feel it physically. What Adam Scott says, your shoulders might be a little looser, you might feel a little less tired or something like that. But so all they do is work. I don't know, like I got a lot of marks, like we've run out of workers to exploit, so now we're going to exploit like half of you to the way to create this product.
So the way to bring that together, what David was saying, is that, if identity is memory, then it's then it's not all or nothing. And you could see this building from your critique as what we see in the show is an extreme version of corporate life. I go to my job, I have different friends, different experiences. I do different things.
Totally alienated from it.
And I think we all live lives which aren't like that. Whatever you think of our lives, the work is very blurred. But I have a friend of mine who works in a bank, and he goes 9 to 5 in a bank, and then doesn't think about his work, doesn't talk, that doesn't get together with his work friends, has a whole different friends, and is leading sort of two different lives.
Yeah. I think it is commenting on that kind of life as well. The person who their job is their job, and maybe it's something that they're a little like iffy about. They're not the proudest of what they do necessarily, or they work in corporate law firms or something like that, but it's their job. And that's why they can like report their families, and that's why they can, but they don't talk about it. They don't.
Yeah. And it's not that I disagree, Tamara. I'm a consensus builder. I choose not to frame it as a disagreement.
Yes.
But rather as a matter of like, more what I was saying is like, that stuff is clearly there. right?
Such a
like,
Gentile
and when you say,
way of
when you say, I turned the other cheek. When you say, for instance, about the alienation stuff, this is a clear case in which even their innies are alienated because they are performing a task that they have zero idea
what they're doing.
as to what
Yeah.
and I'm not sure whether they're so they watch these like retro computer screens.
Yeah, this is cool stuff. I love that.
They have
shit.
to sort these. There's just a bunch of digits floating around, and they have to do some task where they collect some group of those digits that are floating around and put them in one bin, and they separate these into buckets. And the way that they do it is they're just told, just stare at these numbers, and after a while you'll get a feel for which ones are the bad ones, and then you'll put those into a bin. And I was really, and I was also talking to you all about this, really curious as to whether you two think that this is something important that will be revealed, or whether it's a MacGuffin that is only intended to demonstrate that what they're doing isn't important and they don't even know.
So a formative experience in my life was watching Lost. It's the ultimate great TV betrayal, where they had all of these complicated and really weird things, and then they didn't explain half of them in the end. So I maybe this is reductive. I want explanations of all of this shit. I want the baby goats. I want the waffle party.
Yeah.
I want there to be a logic behind this. They can't do something like this and then just not explain it.
Because it also makes them feel like the way they put them in the number is it gives them this feeling of like, I don't know, some like unnameable negative emotion like anxiety and fear and something that just like, oh, we got to put
the angry
those in.
numbers, like the angry numbers.
Yeah, and it's funny because Helly is at first making fun of it. She's like, "Ooh, a 4," and then she sees it, and it doesn't seem traumatizing. It just seems mildly unpleasant.
But in this case, I feel like they would be in a danger of over-explaining in a way that wouldn't be satisfying.
Not the numbers. I don't think.
Yeah.
We got to get
I
some
love their
idea.
theories. One of the funniest scenes is where Dylan offers his theory of what they're doing.
Yeah, they're
He's
shooting
cleaning
eels.
Oh, eels, yeah.
Yeah, like killing eels in the ocean. He's very funny. This podcast is sponsored by BetterHelp Online Therapy. Life can be overwhelming, and many people are burned out without even knowing it. Symptoms can include lack of motivation, feeling helpless or trapped, feeling detachment, fatigue, and a lot more. And if there's ever a time of year to be burnt out, if you're a student or a faculty, this is it, right? End of the semester, exams, papers, grading, constant meetings. It affects you mentally and physically in ways that you might not be aware of. And yeah, we associate burnout with work, but that's not the only cause. Any of our roles in life can lead us to feel burned out, and BetterHelp Online Therapy wants to remind you to prioritize yourself. Talking with someone can help you figure out what's causing stress in your life. And maybe you have a friend or a loved one that you can talk to, but sometimes talking with a person who is completely unbiased and also trained to help people with particular issues and challenges can be cathartic. It can be life-changing. BetterHelp is customized online therapy that offers video, phone, and even live chat sessions with your therapist, so you don't have to see anyone on camera if you don't want to. It's much more affordable than in-person therapy, and you can be matched with a therapist in under 48 hours. This podcast is sponsored by BetterHelp, and Very Bad Wizards listeners get 10% off their first month at betterhelp.com/VBW. That's BetterHelp.com/VBW. Thanks to BetterHelp for sponsoring this episode. So it's also just like a workplace comedy at times.
Yes.
It is just these four guys, this, shitty boss, this weirder, higher up shitty boss played by Patricia Arquette. Both of them are great. And, that also brings in the cult aspect. At least you get the sense with Patricia Arquette, actually both of them, that they really believe that what they're doing is important, and they don't seem to have severed like the other ones.
That's right.
And they can be cruel and they can be cold-blooded, but they also seem to really buy into what they're doing. And I saw an interview with the writer, and he was saying, we definitely did a lot of research into this cult. And the specific one he mentioned was the NXIVM. But then his point was it's a spectrum between that and like Starbucks. You know, like you hear about the founder, you hear about their kind of vision of the company. It's obviously there's one extreme and then there's, a lower part of that spectrum, but it's all kind of the same thing. And I remember I sold for the Institute of Reading Development and I had to like try to get people to sign up to be taught how to read more efficiently. And I remember like there was a period like from 4 to 5 where this is like the tour they get where we had to like watch a video on the history of how the founder started the Institute of Reading Development. And like the woman who was like above us was like, she was like, it brings a tear to my eye. I was like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, are you like, it was the cheesiest, most ridiculous thing, but you were supposed to buy in. And the people who were in charge of us, we were just like the salespeople. The people who were in charge of us, they either bought it or they were really good actors about like how, because like they were moved, like they were emotional after this just preposterous video.
Yeah, there's also the cult vibes. They are really creepy. And of course, there's so much of corporate America. I already know the emails we're going to get. You've never worked in a corporation and you never experienced this kind. It's uncanny. No, I know, like, true. I'm aware of that. It's also very multi-level marketing, kind of like multi-level market culty feeling where they're all a family and you're expected to devote your life and convert your friends and all that. They have a full-on replica of the founder's house, from like whatever the 1800s inside the building. And have you guys ever been to the Scientology headquarters in Hollywood by any chance?
No.
They have like L. Ron Hubbard's office as he left it.
Yeah.
But if corporations are robbing us like this of our identity, of our time, making slaves out of us, I'm tempted to say better it be innies than it be me. Better that there be a clear division.
Starts. Yeah. Elon Musk buying Twitter and now you like being like, yeah, let's do it.
One important thing about it is people choose. They make a big point of mark. He chose, and everybody chooses to do it for different reasons.
But the new one doesn't choose. The innies don't choose.
The Outies choose to create innies.
Yeah.
What do you guys make of the break room?
Yeah.
Where they have to so here in the break room, whenever they violate a rule that presumably is serious enough, they go into this room and they're made to read an apology over and over again until the interrogator believes that it was sincere.
Yeah.
But the break room reminds me of telling your kid to apologize and mean it.
Yeah.
Right? It's a very difficult task. So there's one grueling scene where Helly has to do it 1,300 times because she doesn't mean it. Do you think that that's possible even?
To what?
To repeat it until you mean it?
I think so. Like, I think that's like a torture technique or something where you make somebody do something repeatedly until they start to believe what it is that they're doing.
It's like brainwashing.
It's like breaking somebody, kind of.
Yeah.
They clearly have all these, rituals for dealing with people acting out because they can't have that. They can't, and they especially can't have that when they're dependent on this person not doing something violent that would affect their outie, because then the outie is just not going to go back in. And they don't seem to have any way of forcing the outies to go back in.
Right. That's the brilliance of it. It relies on a truly free choice on the part of the outies every time.
Right.
And
but
it's so interesting. They don't know. It's so interesting to see them have to, as the tension builds, they are in a battle with the outies and the innies.
Yeah. The episode where Ellie tries to kill herself, tries to end her life, and she's kind of hanging and she goes back up because she wants her outie to know that she's doing this. I just love that because it's like this little mini internal rebellion that is like for now at least, end of the episode, we should talk about the end of the season and all that stuff. But like, this was just a little mini revolution, a little mini protest revolt that was in the end just put down. And it's just all in this Ellie's elevator ride. It's just very like that stuff was very cool, I thought.
Is it, I got into a discussion with somebody about this. Is it wrong what Outie's doing to create an innie to go work? And I mean, it's not sadistic. The idea would be that innie makes the money and the Outie spends it, I guess.
Yeah, but the innie is the slave. It's definitely wrong.
To me, this is the central ethical question being asked so far. I'm not convinced that it's wrong. I'm convinced that the innie is being harmed, but I'm not convinced that it's wrong to harm yourself.
Is it different in kind from saying, well, I need some money. I'm going to work in this very miserable, boring 9-to-5 job. While I'm there, I'm not going to be very happy. But then when I leave, that's the price I pay.
It's funny. My intuitions are like, you guys are fucking psychos right now. And like, of course it's wrong, right? Like,
they're just
like,
innies.
think of there's this other kind of thread where it seems like people will develop an innie just to have childbirth.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So now you have this innie that's being born and all she'll experience is the pain of childbirth. And then immediately, as soon as like the pain stops, she'll be dead.
I'm actually surprised at how much you're buying into the different person.
Yeah.
Right. I thought you would be more of a monist about this stuff.
Well, I guess it's because I agree with Paul that like I think the memory like this really does. And I'm teaching like a seminar in the self right now. And so we've looked at some of the stuff on memory and especially narrative. And it seems like these people who are innies have no narrative conception of who they are. And like, you know, the narrative view is that you need to have a narrative to have a self. You know, the stronger versions of it is like that tells you what you're about, like what your values are, where, like what your trajectory is. And when you don't have that, you're not a self. Now, the innies don't have it at first, then they have it, but it's a totally different narrative than the Outie's narrative. So to me, they seem like completely different people. And so that's why it seems like, because it seems like you're doing something wrong to another person. So that's what explains my intuition.
One way to test the intuitions is, I don't know if you guys talked about this, but there's a famous philosophical example. Let's say an example, maybe it's true about anesthesia, where one story about anesthesia is that it actually does not dull your pain. It paralyzes you. You feel every moment of the pain, but then you lose your memory of it. And I was telling this to somebody because I actually was going for surgery. And I realized this, and I started talking with this anesthesiologist who I was expected she would just say, that's ridiculous. Yeah, some people believe that. And I know, but like,
Whoa,
comforting
holy
words.
shit, that blows my
Like,
mind.
I'm
So
lying.
we might have already done this.
we might have had the most horrible torture in the world, having people cut into our bodies while we're paralyzed, can't scream. And then we wiped memory. But the thing is, I told somebody about this, and he said, who cares? It doesn't bother me.
Right. This is like when I think about getting circumcised. Like I can't muster the outrage because I don't remember the pain at all.
But it did happen to you.
It did happen to me. And I guess my intuition, I keep pulling my intuition back to instances. Well, two things. The second one I want to get to about personal identity, what you said, Tom. The first one, though, is that I keep thinking, how is this any different from, not eating healthy in your 20s and paying the price when you're in your 30s? I guess person in your 20s has made a damaging decision that person in your 30s has no control over. But they're both us. There is something to me real about the boundaries of my physical body and it being my brain that is making the decisions.
So that's the youngie fucking over to oldie.
Yeah. And I think to some degree, most of our decisions are like that because I think that that's just what identity.
But you
turns out
feel
to be.
as a 37-year-old, you feel like, well, that was me making the decisions, and now here am I paying the price. But you don't feel that when you're an innie and you didn't make the choice. And
so the question is whether that second thing is not necessarily true. That it could be that you don't feel a connection. That's totally true. But to me, the ethical question is not whether or not you feel a connection, is whether or not that other self truly has the right to do what they did.
Well, right. I don't know if I would put this in terms of rights. I would frame it more in terms of it's wrong to create a different self that only does the things that you don't want to do.
So there's a supposition we're all making here, including me, which is that suppose I have a very painful thing coming up, like childbirth or whatever, and I sever myself. the idea is I don't feel it then. There's part A is walking and say, oh, great, I'll sever myself. I'll cut it. Part B will be an amnesic. But there's another way of looking at it where that's me. Somebody's getting the pain, and that somebody is me. And just because I don't remember it later doesn't mean it's not me.
Yeah,
Right,
but I think that's so fascinating that you said that, Paul, because, as someone like who had Achilles tendon surgery, which if you're right, and if that person is right, I created a small little self like that only existed for the duration of that surgery that was just like only lived for experiencing excruciating pain and then immediately.
Yeah.
And that would
It's like Jesus. It's like you like
exactly.
You created a savior
I created
for
a
you.
small, tiny Tamler Jesus, and
He died for your sins.
for my sins. That's horrible. But then, if someone says, let's say that gets vindicated, and then I tear my other Achilles, which I'm probably bound to happen, and they're like, okay, now that you know, do you want to have the anesthesia or not? Because all it's doing is actually creating this separate self. And then, you come out of it, you won't even know that it happened, which is totally true. When you do anesthesia, it's like no time has passed at all once you get up. So maybe as much as I think it's psychotic to do this maybe I would still do it. All it takes is I have to undergo another surgery or something like that.
Given that we know what they're doing, let me try to pull your intuition in this direction. He is essentially taking on a corporate job. He has decided to accept the job. He is doing this work. Imagine a version of him that just goes in every morning voluntarily, works that job, and comes back home. That he has chosen to essentially take a drug to forget what he did during the day, but nonetheless get the work done, seems kind of appealing to me. And it reminds me of a few times in which, I remember I used to take Ambien, and I remember taking Ambien and actually writing emails that were just work emails. And they weren't crazy because I wasn't drunk or anything.
Unlike me on the Very Bad Wizards Facebook page.
Yeah,
when I was on Ambien.
What did you do?
That was your true self.
It was a Jason Stanley kind of deal.
It was, so I wrote work emails, and I remember waking up the next day or edited a paper or something, and I woke up the next day and I didn't remember that I had done the work, but I was like, wow, I left this gift. Yeah, it's like I've left this gift to myself. Maybe they're like, hey, Innie's taking one for the team. Innie's doing all the work, and I get the paycheck. If they could voluntarily switch it off every morning, that'd be different, right?
But that would be different.
Yeah.
But
that would be a different thing.
Really nothing
you don't get to in this case, you just start doing the work. You have no other life. You don't have a sex life. At best, you'll meet you're an older man and you're gay, and you'll meet another older gay man, and you can have conversations in the hallway, which is awesome. But
the chance of having sex with Christopher Walken at work is enough to persuade me.
Somebody made passing reference in one of the episodes in the Outie world to they read a case where this woman got pregnant, where Innie got pregnant.
Oh yeah, that's right.
And they just make pass.
Okay, so suppose there's a chip that is in you that lets you switch on what we can call an amnesia device. So let's say you have a full day of spring cleaning. You don't really want to do it, but you have to. You switch it on so that the next thing you remember is it's nighttime, your house is completely clean.
So the question is there a consciousness in between? There's no problem if it's a robot, an unconscious robot doing it.
Yeah.
There is. It's just you.
I don't know. I have such a strong, you're right, actually, Paul, that this is making me buy the narrative view, but it's you've created somebody completely new.
Yeah.
And they live their whole life cleaning your house, according to your weird standards, because you're kind of a germaphobe. That's not a good life. That's not a eudaimonic life.
although to some extent, in this world, we employ people to use their full selves to do uglier jobs of society.
Oh,
totally.
There you go.
This is
to pay a cleaner is unethical.
I mean, I think these are the kinds of questions that it's also interesting.
Yeah, no, it's fair enough. I'm getting to. So here's a question that came as we're talking, which is, I had this weird intuition where if I had an innie and somebody told me somebody at Lumens is going to get tortured, I actually don't worry so much whether it's me or somebody else. I wouldn't say, oh my God, I hope it's not my innie. I just feel it's totally separate. And as
Yeah,
long as
and
my
this
body
is-
isn't damaged, I don't care particularly who it is.
This is one of the things that I find like I don't totally get physiologically, because if you're having a bad day at work and you are so pissed, and maybe even like you're running away from that like security guard that like, you know, and then you go down the elevator, like there's no way that's not going to physically manifest itself in some way for the outie. And they talk about that. They mention, I think Adam Scott mentions it for the innie, that you feel less rested or more rested, and maybe your shoulders aren't hurting as much. But for the outie, that's got to also be true, right? And I guess it would, but for the outie, probably feels like, that's how I would have felt anyway.
Right.
But I
would have had
experienced it.
hypertension at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Either way.
Either way.
That's a great question about the emotions. Suppose I'm absolutely furious and I lose my memory. Boom.
Well,
so
like Helly
my
is
heart might still be
clearly-
pounding,
yeah.
but
Right.
does my anger just fade away? Like,
It seems like a Damasio kind of view would be more like you're still pissed, you're still angry. You may not know why anymore, but you're like worked up. That's
Right,
how
if
I
it's-
think it would be.
Right. You could have the sort of the two-factor theory of emotion view that like is so long as the person coming down the elevator is told that the reason their heart is beating is because they just had like a party, then perhaps they could
No, but
reappraise.
I've had times like some bad combination of edibles and alcohol or something like that, and I'll get really mad and I'll be like yelling about something, and then I'll completely forget what it is that I'm yelling about, but I still feel angry. But like I have to ask the person I'm yelling at like what I'm mad about.
that sounds very creepy, Tamler.
So that's
You're screaming at somebody. It's like, wait, why am I yelling at you?
Why am I mad at you? Totally. That's
Why
totally
am I punching
happened to
you?
me.
Why am I punching you, Liza? This is why I feel like this is just sort of a writ large what we do to ourselves. Like we escape by taking drugs and alcohol all the time.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
I never have blackout drunkenness, but you know there are people who experience this sort of thing all the time. Their drunk self comes out. They're Mr. Hyde.
Yeah, I mean, the blackout drunk is actually maybe the best analogy to this kind of person, except that the blackout drunk person has some knowledge of who they are and what their name is and something like that. And they have, you know, it's almost like the innie is more the outie is more the prisoner of the innie for the blackout drunk kind of thing.
That's such
suffer.
a great question. I a long time ago took Ambien and alcohol, and then it was a very frightening experience. I basically the next day I'm thinking, it's in the evening, and I'm thinking back, and I have no memory of my morning, where I know I had given a guest lecture in somebody's class, and I email them and say, "Hey, how did that guest lecture go?" And
I remember the day that you
and she said, "It went fine. It was a great lecture." And it was deeply frightening. But now I'm asking the question, which I never asked before, which was, what was a very brief innie me like? Presumably, I was conscious. I was fully conscious. I was me.
Maybe you were your best self.
Maybe.
So, to the issue of personal identity and autobiographical memory, I share your intuitions that it seems as if we just are our memories, but I don't think that can be totally right because there are things. You know, isn't that like an old philosophical problem? Like the young man remembers, the old man remembers the middle-aged man, the middle-aged man.
Yeah.
Thomas Reed.
Yeah. But there are cases like HM of severe anterograde amnesia where they can't remember that they just met somebody a minute ago. It's like a new experience. And that's usually combined with some sort of retrograde amnesia where they can't they can, remember who they are, but pretty much it, right? They've lost much of their autobiographical memory. And so you have people who are living moment to moment with no memory of why they are where they are. They seem to still feel as if they have self. They seem to like actually talk about themselves as being like, there's this, I forget the name of the guy, but I show it every year to my intro psych class.
Clive Waring?
It's very severe, Clyde Waring. And he says, he at one point gets angry. He says, I've never seen a doctor. They're incompetent here. Nobody's been able to take care of me. And he saw one like the minute ago.
Yeah.
But it's still him. I think he would still feel.
Right. He's still someone that would tend to bitch about like
exactly
like how he's being treated at all. That's
Right.
like me. I think it is, though. It's not. We're not questioning whether they have a self. We're just saying it is not necessarily the same self. But that does raise the question of how much of your personality depends on your memories. And we have two cases. The biggest case being Adam Scott, where we have a sense of their personalities on both sides. And we mentioned that Adam Scott seems like he's a little looser and lighter at work. But they seem like the same person overall, just like at different stages in their life with different breaks cutting their way, like two kind of alternate versions on a timeline where the wife doesn't die or the wife dies or something like that. The other one that we get any kind of real sense of is Ellie, and it's not anywhere near as detailed, but we know Ellie's Innie really well, and she's like she's the protester.
Yeah.
You know, she's the Che Guevara, like she wants to like bring the place down, but then she's also the person that is like running the operation or in line to run the op. So on the one hand, it seems like, well, that's totally different. She's friend of the working man, and she's like the CEO or incoming CEO. But on the other hand, it's like they both have this kind of like, I don't know, like
strong will. She's like a clearly strong independent
will, maybe almost kind of privileged attitude. Like I shouldn't be treated like this, which in the Innie's case is probably right. But maybe you need like the confidence of being, feeling like the world should cater to you to even think that when you're there. So I don't know. Like I think you could make a case that they are kind of the similar personalities, even if they're different selves.
It reminds me of Dylan, who in some way doesn't see things as we're talking about, because when his Innie wakes up in his house and he sees he has a son, he is it is deeply shocking to him and jarring, and I think he would tell you that his Outie is him, and it's very important. And there's a scene where his manager is like screaming at him and wanting to get him to open the door, and he says, "If you open the door, you have two other sons. I'll tell you their names." And it's like really the assumption is the same guy. It's a very very moving scene actually.
Yep. He's a good character. I didn't totally buy his like rivalry with the other department, but he adds a kind of like lightness to the show that's like I think really good, especially kind of early.
There's something about one of the departments kill all the other department and cannibalize them or something. It's just some of the show is just nuts. There's all sorts of things we're not talking about because I'm not sure anything makes sense.
The goats.
There's just a wonderful absurdity to the show.
Yeah, it doesn't. It takes itself the right amount of seriously. I feel like.
Yes.
Like it doesn't think it's more profound than it is. It is really like the tone of it is great.
There's Mark's sister's husband, who is played as this kind of this jackass clown who writes this terrible self-help book,
but also like
touching.
Could start a revolution.
Yes.
It's like it has both elements to it.
They're going to publish the self-help book, by the way. The people who make the show, the You Within You or something. They're going to
the you are.
You are.
At first, you really don't buy that the sister, who's a very kind of sensible, cynical,
I still find that hard to buy.
Yeah, I think you get the sense that the guy is he's not a con man. He really believes it, and he's like a good person deep down, even if all this bullshit that he's peddling. But like he buys it, and that's also true of Patricia Arquette, I think.
Yes.
And like there's a kind of sad arc with her character. She's like the leader of at least the branch of Severance that we are in contact with. And she also weirdly has a house that's next door to Adam Scott's character, which we get the sense that there's something about Mark, that's Adam Scott. There's something about Mark that is more important.
Yes.
He gets a little bit of a promotion. Then, of course, we haven't even talked about the fact that there's this big reveal that his wife, who we thought was dead, is still alive. Although, I don't know.
He thinks she died in a car accident, but she turns out to be the wellness counselor. Yeah.
But someone who doesn't seem to have the same deal that everybody else has. She doesn't seem to have an Outie. She seems to only exist as an Innie and not for many hours during the day.
Do we know that she doesn't have an Outie?
We don't know, but she does say this thing about how she's only been alive for 107 hours.
Yes.
And if she was, so that means that, if she was working 8-hour days, that wouldn't be very long at all. And we get the sense that his wife died much longer ago than that.
That's true.
So clearly there's something going on there. She is, her job seems to be this very creepy wellness
counselor,
a therapy
wellness counselor,
which involves her telling people nice things about their outies. Like, your outie is kind to animals. Your outie is a compassionate lover.
But you're not allowed to react differently to each thing.
Your outie is strong and can lift large objects.
Your outie attends many dances and is popular among the other attendees. Your outie likes films and owns a machine that can play them. Your outie is splendid and can swim gracefully and well. I'm sorry. Please try to enjoy each fact equally and not show preference for any over the others. That's 10 points off. You have 90 points remaining.
Points?
Please don't speak.
Is this supposed to be maybe a takeoff on a performance review of some sort? I don't know.
Yeah, or like some HR nightmare seminar or something like that.
It's self-affirmation, but your other self is being affirmed. You're just being told. It's interesting, though, that they would be made to feel proud about their other selves. There is some sort of parent-child relationship between the outie and the innie, it seems, to the extent that there's any feelings either way. This episode of Very Bad Wizards is brought to you by NordVPN, my personal favorite VPN, one that I use, and so I can tell you all about it from my own experience. A VPN, if you don't know, is a virtual private network. It essentially creates an encrypted connection for your data to flow through. And so if you're somebody who worries about security and privacy, for instance, if you're traveling and you're at a cafe or an airport and you're a little worried about the Wi-Fi connection, simply turn on your VPN and you'll have secure private accuracy guaranteed. But another big reason to use a VPN like NordVPN is that you have access to content from up to 59 different countries. Because what a VPN is doing is allowing your IP address to look like it's coming from anywhere, you can essentially use the NordVPN service to get access to streaming services in other countries. So for instance, if you're in the US and you want to watch a UK show on one of the UK streaming services, simply pull down, click that you're from the UK and you get it. Or if, like recently, you're traveling to another country. For me, I was traveling to Canada and I was able to use my NordVPN to get access to American programming on my streaming services and escape the oppressive Canadian regime. I was able to do it simply and easily. I've said this before. It used to be that these VPNs slowed down your connection. It does not at all anymore. I cannot tell the difference when I'm on the VPN and when I'm not. So if you think that a VPN might be something that you're interested in and you want to support NordVPN and Very Bad Wizards, just go to nordvpn.com/VBW. You'll get a 2-year plan plus 1 additional month with a huge discount. It's essentially equivalent to buying a cup of coffee every month. A very small price to pay, I think, for having the security that you might want and access to all that entertainment from around the world. Again, that's nordvpn.com/VBW. Our thanks to NordVPN for sponsoring this episode of Very Bad Wizards. I do love that mock Adam Scott, that he does such a good performance of being melancholic on the outside and shifting to sort of naive optimism on the inside, kind of surface cheerfulness. But at one
with
point,
a healthy cynicism too.
Yeah, with a healthy cynicism. He doesn't Dylan takes things seriously in there. Irving takes things very seriously. He doesn't. But at one point, Petey, who is the friend who disappears from work, it turns out he's been reintegrated, something they didn't think was possible. He tells him, even inside, you carry it. Like I can tell, you know.
Huh.
Yeah, and I think that's right. Like he does have a little bit of something that's weighing him down, even though he has, and that makes sense, right? It should be like that.
That's what I was thinking when you were talking about whether you bring your emotions in. And you know, he references that he used to come in to work with his eyes red every day. And we know from the very first scene that it's because he was crying in his car. And he comes up and they used to joke that he had allergies or something or other.
So is one of the questions that it's addressing is, do you deal with your pain up front or do you just repress it and not handle it? You know, like I think that's the sense I got from his character, at least, is that he is opting to not live with it. He can't address it, even though it's not totally clear how that this helps other than just shortening the days. But I guess at least it does that.
There's one of the scene we didn't talk about, but when Irving discovers that Bert's retiring, and he gets extremely upset and basically says, I forget exact words, says, you know, he's dying, you're killing him.
Yeah.
And that the logic would be if you did wipe out an innie, it would extinguish a person with memories and experiences and relationships.
This is also what's fascinating about Petey and the difficulties he's having with reintegration. It does seem like it would be a really jarring experience to now have access to. It's sort of like, Tamler, you were talking about like a parallel universe branched off and there's two lives. And now it's like the two have been collapsed upon each other.
You'd be having somebody else's memories.
Yeah. But yours weirdly, right? Yours in the same way that Clive Waring is Clive Waring. Like you know that they're yours because your self is still in there. Your innie and your outie are, very weird.
Yeah.
I do think we're supposed to think that what Mark is doing is coping incorrectly with his emotion.
And that maybe what people are doing by like compartmentalizing their life like this is a way of evading or, you know, not dealing in an upfront way with what the real issues of society are, what your personal issues are. I think that's a part of it.
Yeah.
And what it does is create this kind of underclass. And that's like the last episode, which is just phenomenal, of the innies kind of staging a little kind of heist almost. Like it's like, you know.
It turns into a heist film. Yeah, you're right.
Ocean's 11 for the personal identity crew.
Getting their innies to be able to somehow, I don't even remember the details, but like go out into the outer world and interact with the outer world and let them know like how they're feeling and what's happening.
Yeah, and the only way to communicate with your outie is to tell someone else a message, right? Because what their innies are getting switched on through this procedure that apparently just exists for emergencies. They switch on their innies, they discover things about their outie life, and if their outie gets switched back on, they will have their innie will remember it, but they'll have no way of letting the two identities
They'll just wake up
communicate.
in the elevator next day.
Like, which creates this amazing tension in the very last scene.
Yeah, and the thing with Ellie, first she finds out, which is a big revelation, but apparently people had figured out on Reddit long before. I didn't go to that, but that she was like the incoming CEO, and she was a real convert to this method and kind of offered herself as a sacrifice.
It's a hair club for men situation.
Right, and now I'm a member. And now I'm the owner, right? But like at any moment, as she's about to give this speech, which she does, at least in part, give the speech saying like, we hate it in there, you're torturing us. Yeah, and we don't know the fallout from that. But like, I don't know, the suspense of that whole moment. And meanwhile, there's Mark finding out at the end. I still don't know what to make of the fact that it's his wife.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is going to be one of those cases where the details about what happened do matter, lest we feel a bit betrayed, because she died supposedly in a car accident. You know, she hit a tree, and she has a tree in her office, and
he built a tree out of clay.
Yeah, and he built a tree out of clay.
But
how he would get fooled into thinking that his wife was dead, unless there's some $6 million man shit going on.
That's what I think it's like. I feel like it's some like reanimation.
Oh man, they can't get reanimation robots in there.
I hope.
But this is one they can't duck. They gotta.
No, they can't duck that. Yeah.
You know, Roy Baumeister had this great work on escape from the self. And I can't help but think of this as just, if this, one of the reasons I like the show is because, there's the corporate angle, there's this identity angle, but there is really, to me, this escape from the self. This is is just another way of doing what we do so often. We find some way to deal with just the nature of existence by trying our best to blot out some of our experiences, or change our consciousness in some way or another. And this is like the ultimate escape.
Yeah, like the smallest example is when we look at our phone because we're feeling anxious for a second. And so like we're just trying to escape dealing with like even the littlest things, like just deadlines or some email.
But I know what you're saying, but it seems different. So Baumeister talks about BDSM, or you're looking at your phone, or getting whipped, or intense exercise. But you aren't really escaping from yourself. You're throwing away all the sort of shit that surrounds yourself, that the self-doubt, the humiliation, the feeling of whatever. But the core of yourself, the sort of pearl, remains. And that's why you enjoy it. But this obliterates the self. So if you look at your phone, you say, that was kind of relieving, but you don't lose consciousness, I don't think.
No, I mean, I guess, that's a good, right? Like, I suppose that one could view escapes from the self as small steps in their direction of obliterating the self. And I think this is the kind of like existential denial of death kind of thing where we really, really do want to obliterate ourselves secretly. But all of the methods that we have for everyday life are just ones in which we can temporarily forget all of the things. Maybe this is just the extreme version. Right. Or maybe we're throwing out the baby with the bathwater.
We didn't even talk about a missing baby, which was a scene at the end. But Mark,
oh, yeah, that's right.
but Mark, in some way, Mark is committing suicide. It's that 50% suicide. Yeah. You have your life, and for half of your life, you're gone. You've lost half of your life. Now you've given birth to somebody else who experiences this life.
Yeah, and that's why, like, I don't know, like, I'm amazed antinatalism hasn't come up yet, but it is kind of like that also thing. You're bringing if you buy that it's another self, you're bringing another self into the world that might be suffering. You don't know. Like, maybe it's great at work. There's some nice things. You get the dragon, the paper
finger
dragons, finger traps, if, but you don't know. You have no idea.
Waffle party seems pretty fucking cool.
Like, so, like, do you have a right to do that? Like, are you doing something good? Are you sacrificing your life so another person could live? I
thought we weren't talking about this in terms of rights, Tamler.
No, right. Yeah. Is it, ought you to do that? Is it?
Yeah. Remember that there's a Borges quote that I love where he says mirrors and copulation multiplies selves. Severance also multiplies the number of selves in the world.
Right? Like my whole thing where like it's okay to eat cows if they have a good life until they die. Like that's definitely what's happening here in the sense of you're creating these selves. They have their lives. Hopefully, like you would want to ensure they're being humanely treated, and maybe they are, maybe they aren't. And then they're going to die, like because you're going to retire, and once you retire, as you said, Paul, they're dead.
Yeah.
Or quit or whatever.
And interestingly, what you said made me think there is just a profound, weird lack of empathy for the innie. That the outie is callous and. So, you could say, well, there are all these people working menial jobs that you don't care about. Well, yeah, they're not me. You think, I mean, I don't say that. I care about the workers. But people say that. But it's odd, even if you believe that it is a different person, that you wouldn't kind of be curious to know whether you've created a happy one.
Yeah.
You won't know. And if you
Helly
do know,
definitely Helly's outie definitely knows that she's created a miserable one. She's just sort of corporately motivated.
Yeah. But like you get the sense that that's what normally happens because they talk about like you can send a request, but it doesn't usually work out. So you get the sense that other people have tried it, and this is kind of what normally happens.
Yeah, it's like the outie is like telling the innie, like, stop being a little bitch. We signed up for this. Like, do your work.
Exactly, but that's just slavery at that point.
It's a pure case of bringing somebody else into the world to do your bidding, and then being indifferent. to their fate.
To their suffering, to their fate. Yeah. Now, I don't know if we know for sure that other people have gotten the videos, because there's definitely some corporate malfeasance going on at Lumen. But at least, and in Helly's case, they probably felt like they could do it because she's totally on board. It would surprise me if Irv got a video saying, please let me out, that he wouldn't have. But given that you're not even inquisitive about how you are in there, it does kind of feel like you're doing a disservice.
And when you sign up, they have this wonderful science fiction device where you can't write down anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they take great steps to make sure you don't. And Mark tells Helly this story about it. If you swallow something, they'll take it out of you. And imagine knowing this and yet signing up this other identity to experience a place where they can't cry for help.
Do you think, though, that they tell the Outies versions that? Because they might not.
No, that's right.
They might think, the Outies might just think, oh, I have no complaints, so it's probably good. Everything's going well in there, I guess.
Parfit has this wonderful example, which is actually a very innie Outie case, where he says, you wake up from an operation and you're very groggy. You wake up in a hospital, right? And then the nurse comes by and says, and you're supposed to have this operation, but you're not sure whether you had it or you just slept because you're very groggy. The nurse says, well, we had somebody who had an operation that was extremely painful and it lasted 10 hours. Normally it lasts 5 hours. We're not sure whether you're the person who had this 10-hour extremely painful operation, which you then forgot, versus you have the 5-hour operation coming up next. And Parfit's intuition and mine is you really want to have it over with. You'd rather have 10 agonizing hours that you can't remember behind you than 5 hours in front of you.
Oh, yeah. That's just like...
For sure.
Yeah, right. 100%. It's like grading papers. So it's like,
better.
Whatever you want to tell me, as long as the papers are done. I don't care how long it took me.
So all of a sudden you remember, I already did them and it was horrible. But
yeah.
If I could temporarily create an innie to grade papers, I would totally do it. That's the
worst. That's
why you're doing it anyway.
Psychotic thing that you've ever said.
If the task is not unethical, then you have two options. One, you do the work and remember it. Two, you do the work and don't remember it.
But you're creating a self that's the only thing they do is grade all these papers.
But then they stop existing. Like, what do you care?
What if you bring them back?
Because that's wrong to do.
What if you bring them back every semester? Same self. So they go to the elevator, and then they come back and there's more papers.
You're like, fuck
they
you.
Just finish the last paper and they think sweet annihilation, but then like the next second they're aware of, they have to grade like 30 more papers.
And they pray for death.
This is actually, okay, so does your intuition...
They're just taking the pens and just jamming it into their wrist. So Dave records a video saying, I will make sure you suffer.
You're not a person, grade the papers.
Grade every one of those papers. Yeah.
I mean, it's sort of like Memento guy tattooing messages to himself.
Yeah.
Yes. But there is, you have pointed out that, or in what you said, I think that there is, part of it is driving our intuition is that the innies have a continuous identity. So if I'm creating the person to grade papers on one afternoon, to me, that's no different than popping in, an ambient equivalent. And doing the work, and then that if I did create a different person, it's not really a person in the sense that there's no continuity to it.
It's like a subroutine. It's just
exactly right. It's like forming a habit.
But that's not how it is for the innies and
well, that's why I'm saying that what seems to be important to the intuition that it's wrong is that you're creating a persistent identity. That every time they walk out of, they are walking right back in. That seems torture.
That does seem torture.
But if they were wiped and they woke up on a table every morning, and you just could get them right up to speed, that's less bad to me. If they're a new person every day, because then that new person has only experienced an 8-hour workday.
The other thing that I heard that this was inspired by is the back rooms. Do you know about the back rooms?
No, it sounds dirty.
It's like this.
No sex in the champagne room kind of thing?
It's kind of an urban legend, but it's more of like, I don't know, it's called a creepy pasta, which I don't know what that is.
You're going to tell us.
Apparently,
it's like a version of copy pasta. But
No, it's like this kind of thing that develops on Reddit where it's an urban legend, but then it gets really well developed.
Yes,
But the idea
it is a version of copy pasta.
I don't know what copy pasta is.
Yeah,
I don't know
it's
what
okay.
copy
It's
pasta
okay.
is.
I just wanted to let our nerd viewers know.
Okay, go.
And apparently it was created, the original post was on 4chan, I'm just seeing right now on Wikipedia. But it's this like, you could take a wrong turn in your office and just get trapped in like this just long row of desks and hallways, and you're just like lost then. You'll never come out. And I guess the writer said he was inspired by that idea of like all of a sudden you do something and then you get lost in the office, and then the office is the rest of your life. That's how it is for them. Like just this maze of offices and nothing outside it. No, they don't see, like we haven't said this, but they don't see daylight. They don't see, like they're down in the basement. So it's, there's some hell imagery. Like they are, 7 floors down into the ground, and their only life is the workplaye. And like,
it's like being a postdoc.
It's like being a postdoc in Dave's lab.
You should put that in your next ad. It's like being an innie.
Yeah,
but that's I think like what you're doing to this grader, to your grader or to your innie in this show is you're putting them in this kind of nightmarish scenario where like all they have is work and all the corporate bullshit that comes in, like the we're going to do this trust ball that I now roll to you and stuff like that.
So great. Those scenes are so good. Like they're so creepy in this way that just resonates. Every fucking ice warmer that you've ever been forced to sit through, it's just like distills it down to the...
And just the way that the person in power can move from like really supportive and affirming to just threatening and, like they can on a dime just switch to like, and you ought to be grateful. I think gratitude is a good feeling to have about that.
Is your outrage, Tamler, and maybe Paul, is it really about what they're doing? Like if they were just having playground time? Like and like had a happy
if they could
carefree...
have like a happy life doing, if they were doing work that fulfilled them maybe, or and having like relationships and I don't know, and like they got to take time, like they got to go on vacations sometimes, you'd have to sacrifice some of your vacations, but I would do that for my innie.
That's right. If you were severed into it, both the secrecy thing was true. And you really, that was the reason, but it was a challenging job where you're treated with respect and it's interesting work. It doesn't pose the same moral puzzle. In some way, it would be like going to sleep and taking a pill to get certain sorts of dreams.
So it's not the coercion per se that bothers. It's the coercion into the corporate dystopian nightmare.
Well, it's not.
Yeah, I think it's both, but
yeah. It's not there's coercion once the person wants to leave and they're not allowed to.
Right.
Which is genuinely creepy.
Right.
So we should probably wrap up, but I do want to talk a little bit about the aesthetics of this show, only just to register my appreciation for the design.
Totally.
It's just so well done. And like one of you mentioned this before, that they're in this like forced little 4-person cubicle kind of thing, even though there's all this room everywhere around them. I was reading that some of the stuff was made specifically for the show, but some of the stuff they just like bought office furniture from like Eastern Europe and had it shipped over.
It's also not particularly pleasant. Both the innie scenes, but also the outie scenes are not portrayed as pleasant or enjoyable.
I think it very much plays into the theme because we haven't talked about the outie world, but clearly there's something going on. In the outie world, but we get so little information about, like, we don't know we know that there's sort of political maneuvering that has allowed Lumen to make as much of a stamp on this city. We don't get the sense of whether this city is special or whether this is going on in other cities. You also don't get the sense of the scope of Lumen.
Right.
Like, we know that there are at least a few departments, but we don't know, like, is there stuff on the, like, 4th through 12th floors? We have no idea because we're so focused on this core group. The world building of it is dished out to you so sparingly that, and we still, after the whole first season, we still don't totally have a sense of what's going on.
Can I ask you guys do you have any theories? And I'll just offer like a preliminary, which is, it seems to me that the work so they have another department called optics and design, which just is in charge of like the various decorations for the drab basement office and whatever it is they're doing. It feels to me like Lumen is beta testing this severance procedure.
Mm-hmm.
And what they've created is just these like, really, they just want to observe the people who have undergone the procedure, and they're giving them jobs, but those jobs aren't real in any sense. Their job is to be guinea pigs for the new severance procedure that will be, as Tamara was saying earlier, will be sold to other people. Like, hey, imagine you can give birth without ever having to remember. And they feel like beta testers to me. I don't know.
That's what I think.
That may be.
And this is really like a psychology experiment that they're doing to try to figure out, like, what is the innie going to be willing to do without, like, killing themselves or without harming themselves or raising, like, how much can we exploit them?
So that would explain the otherwise odd coincidence of Mark's boss living next to him.
Well, and there's something, and then I think there's also something about Mark where they're testing something particular to him about his wife. Like, this is, while it's probably not right, but if they are kind of reviving or recreating his wife, is this a way to keep them happy? Or do they retain enough personality where, like they will start a relationship inside, and they seem to be testing that, in the office or something with the two of them, I think makes him of a special interest. That's my guess.
But about Irving, we didn't talk about that. We do see his Outie painting these creepy, the exact same painting every time, which is a very dark scene.
Is it the entry into the break room?
It's the entry. Is it the break room?
That's what I think it is, the entry into the break room. Yeah.
So there does seem to be some sort of subconscious leakage from one to the other. I think that's that we're being told. Because also during his, that one of the things they make fun of is an old man. He's prone to falling asleep on the job. And he starts having these dreams of the dripping black ink that he uses for those paintings.
Oh, I didn't make the connection.
Seems to be, some sort of like, it's not a perfect procedure, I guess, is what we're being told.
It's amazing how little the show gave us.
Yes.
I love a show that also just does, it thinks highly of the viewer. It doesn't patronize us with too much explanation.
Definitely.
I feel as this is the kind of show that about 600 people watch. It's happy, the right 600.
It's got a lot of prestige-y buzz. People seem to like it. I don't know. Maybe it's just the like places that I frequent.
Well, they are renewing
People
it.
Seem to love it. I think it's just because it's on Apple TV. I am sad that not more people probably have access to it. But Ben Stiller deserves a fucking.
Just get it for a month. It's like $5, and then you can
just binge the show. Totally worth it.
Binge the show, and then get off before you find yourself watching Ted Lasso season 2.
I mean, maybe season 2 will be as good as Ted Lasso season 2. We could only.
God!
I know.
Why would you say that?
I heard you guys. I'm more sympathetic to the show.
Oh, is it? It grows increasingly bad in my memory. And every time, anytime someone brings up Ted Lasso season 2, I have whatever Mark has, the leftover heartbeat from his being angry inside.
I've blocked. I wish I could have created an innie season 2.
Then it would be ethical. The solution.
Imagine if you guys could have a podcast self, which constantly just endlessly.
I know.
Like that, yeah.
Would I do that to my podcast self? Like their only existence is having to deal with.
You switch it off, and there you are.
And it's like, wait, I'm done with this episode. Finally, he was being such a fucking pain in the ass, and then it's like,
shit.
Welcome to Very Bad Wizards.
So to round things off, by the way, the music is great. I actually have.
So good.
I have. It's on Spotify, and I listen to it as I work. The instrumental.
Oh, I meant to try to make a beat out of the intro. Maybe I'll do that.
Oh, that'd be great.
Yeah, it's so good. So well done. TV is so good. Do you remember in the 80s how bad
ridiculous.
TV was?
The quality of like the filmmaking and the sound and everything. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, it really is a golden age of of television.
Well,
so.
From Magnum PI. Well, them Duke boys have really got themselves into a pickle this time.
Oh, now I want to watch it. Go back and watch it.
I know, that would be good.
Okay.
All right. Well, thank you, Paul.
No, thank you. This was great. Nice to have a show to love. And listen, they better not fuck it up for season 2.
You're talking about Very Bad Wizards, right?
Of course I am.
We're now the second best thing on the internet after
Yeah.
Severance. Yeah. All right. Thank you so much for joining us, Paul. Join us next time on Very Bad Wizards.
Very drunk sex, like blackout sex.
Very, very, very drunk sex.
They don't address this, and I should have said this on the episode, but like if I was in there, I would just jerk off like 8 times a day, and then so that the Outie like couldn't get it up. Like is that exactly his wife?
That's the most sinister thing I've ever heard of.
Oh, why is it sore? I was looking forward to tonight.
That's how the Amy gets back on that.
No wonder his love life on the outside is so terrible. He has post nut clarity for everybody. He just doesn't know why.
The Wayland boss has spoken. Pay no attention to that man behind the curtain.
Who are you? Who are you? A very bad man.
I'm a very good man. Good man. They think deep thoughts, and with no more brains than you have.
Pay no attention to that man.
Anybody can have a brain.
You're a very bad man.
I'm a very good man. Just a very bad wizard.